Hey everyone, welcome to LAMC 2021, and happy to be back here after participating in the first virtual conference last year, and can't believe we're still virtual again this year, but still fun to be able to present to everyone in this fashion, and hopefully we'll all be together here somewhat in the near future. Only time will tell. I work for the Orchard. I'm the Chief Technology Officer, and really what I wanted to do today was talk about how to use data to drive creative and strategic decisions within the music industry. First off, for those who don't know, The Orchard is a distribution company. We work across digital, music, video, physical distribution, providing services globally around the world. We operate in over 40 offices worldwide, and the breadth of services ranges from digital marketing, physical marketing, YouTube channel management, performance rights, sync, and all the things that you could imagine within the music space. So with that, what I figured I would do is jump into a little bit of a presentation for those who participated last year and saw the workshop that I had on Orchard Go. It'll be similar to that with kind of a background of how we drive decisions and then get into a demo of the actual product. So without further ado, I will start sharing my screen here so everyone can see. So yeah, as I said, we're going to talk about using data to really drive decisions. Before we get into it, I thought it would be good to talk about our tech team and how we're structured. For some folks who saw last year, this will be pretty similar, but a lot of it's the same and still holds true, and part of how we build our products out today, so figured it would be good to run through again. Really broken out into 3 different teams, from product management to product design and engineering. And really what they're focused on the product management side is coming up with ideas, and those ideas can range from things that product managers are coming up with themselves based on what they see in the industry, based on what they hear from our users, both internal and clients, or what they're seeing trends happening with other companies, whether within or outside of our space. They're then bringing those ideas to our product design group, who's really helping to refine that idea and put it into a usable experience, something that we think users will be able to drive value off of based on solving the problem that's based on an idea. Once those designs are refined, bring those to the engineering group. And what engineering is doing is saying, great, I understand the idea. I understand the vision for what how this should interact and how users should be able to use the product. Now let me build that. Let me build it so it scales across thousands of users, is localized into different languages for our users internationally, and make sure that it's something where we can build and iterate on it in the future should we want to add more. And ultimately, those products end up in the hands of our artist labels, teams, both internal and external. That ideation process comes from a lot of different outlets, but really it's throughout hearing from our users. And whether those users are internal or external, it's really trying to take what they're asking or giving feedback on, interpreting what they're looking to answer, and then building products around that. So you'll see here, I won't drill super deeply into all of these, but last year we launched Orchard Go, which was an awesome product and had a lot of great feedback. But one of the key things we got was it's great for when you're on the go, but when you're at your desktop, you want to be able to drill in a little bit deeper, and you want to be able to slice and dice data in different ways. Another one is just being able to compare and benchmark. How can I see the results of my current single compared to my last single, those first 7 days that those singles were out? How can I compare an artist that I'm working with to another artist from a social standpoint? And really, it's just about how do we answer these questions? How do we put together a product that's not trying to boil the ocean, but also goes deep enough and wide enough to provide a valuable experience? That comes with taking those ideas and really segmenting them into a problem set. So at the end of the day, what we're really trying to do is provide a parallel but deeper experience that complements Orchard Go. Orchard Go is a really good spot for when you quickly need insights on data, or when you're jumping into a meeting, you want to get a high level overview. But if you're really trying to dig into why something happened, you want to compare it. A lot of those feature sets just aren't conducive on a mobile application, but much more better served on a web app. We want to keep that core tenet that we brought to the surface with Orchard Go, which is really being able to track all industry data, not just for content at the Orchard. We want to be able to slice and dice content across all artists in the ecosystem. And lastly, we want that to be easily shared. Whether you're a client of the Orchard and you want to quickly share that data with one of our employees, whether you're an employee and you want to share it to a client, whether us internally as a team want to be able to share things. So that was really important to us, that it was a seamless experience no matter what user you were. So I promise we get into a product demo here pretty quickly, and we'll do so. That solution was Insights. You'll see the first thing that we did was launch our Insights application. And while it's in beta right now, that's going to shortly be coming out of our beta phase. And really the goal here was to say, for any of the content that you're releasing through the Orchard, as well as from a public standpoint, and when we say public, we mean like social stats such as Instagram followers, Spotify monthly listeners, having that all in one place to be able to not only track it, but be able to act on that data. So one of the first things we launched was the ability to just mark favorites. So whether you're tracking, artists that you work with and that you distribute, or artists in the stratosphere that you're looking to compare and benchmark against. So I'll start by running through Dookie. And I think what's important to note here is, first, I want to get a quick high-level overview. I see that there's been a ton of growth on the left side from a social perspective. And when I'm looking over to the right, I can see there's songs here. And the first thing that I want to probably try to do is see what's driving most of this growth. You can almost see a 5% spike in Instagram followers over the last 7 days, and it's pretty significant. And so one of the things that you can do to be able to see that is pretty quickly jump into one of the tracks here. So we can see, looks like a single was released with a lot of featuring artists that's driving a ton of traction here. You can see a significant amount of streams since only being released at the beginning of March. And what's important is not only just total stream count, but where is that streaming coming from? Is it coming from playlists? Is it from fans who have saved this artist? So they're getting those notifications from Spotify, Apple, et cetera, that a new single's out. That's really what we're trying to do here by showing you it's in a collection for a listener, meaning they have saved it, as opposed to passive discovery, meaning playlisting or things of that nature. And also what playlists are driving the most amount of streams for this artist or for this particular song as well. So you get all of that, and where is it charting? So I think the key thing that this is showing us right now is a quick hit highlight of how this song is doing in the space. What we want to know, is that good? Is it bad? I would expect with featuring artists as big as the ones on this track that it's a pretty significant lift compared to other singles. So what I'll do is actually compare this track to another recently released one from Dookie. So you can see here, Chico Estrella was released almost 11 days later. And up top, you'll see we're looking at data over the past 28 days, which really isn't all that valuable because one was released on the 4th and one on the 15th of March. So what I'm really trying to get here is actually the first 7 days of the release. How is this content trending? And as we assumed, you can see the single with a lot of featuring artists, all who have a lot of clout within the industry, is doing much better than the single. And you can really drill into why that's happening. So if you come down here, you'll see 7% more growth from playlists, which is to be expected, picking up virality there. You can see almost 350,000 streams coming specifically just from one playlist here, which is a significant amount more than the top playlist on the other track. From a charting perspective, you can see where it's got picked up in over 18 regions on weekly top 200, which is likely driving a lot of growth as well. Not only on the weekly top 200, but also 17 regions on the daily top 200 compared to the other track over here, which a lot of that makes sense given the content and how many artists were featured on it. And then, of course, very similar here, you would expect territories to be right around the same thing with audience and gender. But one other thing that's interesting to look at too is if we want to take a look at another track, so maybe something that was more from the past, try single that was released, not a significantly longer time ago, but back in August of 2019. And so you can see kind of here how that track was doing in comparison. So better than the most recently released single in terms of the first 7 days. But you can see here where Chico Estrella starts to get fairly close to where Goteo was. And what this really is just allowing me to do is, instead of a lot of applications today just taking data and throwing it at you and saying, okay, look at the past 28 days and interpret it. We want to actually flip that and say the first 7 days are probably the most important to see how things are trending. And you can get that quick glimpse again of, streams from playlists. So what's nice here is you can see Chico Estrella has a little bit more playlisting, and it's good that it's not over indexing, to be honest. And you can see charts. Hopefully those start to dictate which direction it'll take as well. Another really cool thing is we saw that there are a lot of different artists on here. One of the things that I would want to do is start comparing to these artists. So like Litkilla. So maybe I'll jump back in here. You can take a look at social stats across Litkilla, but how does that actually compare to Dookie? So this is now where we start talking about comparing artists from the public stratosphere. So maybe not within the same label, but getting an idea of trends and how you compare from that perspective. So you can see Dookie has quite a significant amount of Instagram followers comparatively, and same thing really across the board when you look at all of this content. And you're seeing all of these spikes here. And what I would want to know is, okay, this is great. When did all of these spikes start happening? So if you take a look, we can jump back into Dookie's profile here. What I would look to see is, did all the spikes happen around that standpoint when the new singles were released? So you see we've added in, right quickly here is really just an overall timeline. This is hard to tell spikes because you're looking at it across all social platforms. It's more to give you a quick high level overview, but where you can really drill in is, let's say, broken out by each platform over the past 7 days. Let's look to see if there were spikes created from the launch of those singles. So you can see definitely here from that March 15th onwards, you see a trend up on Instagram. You see the same thing on Twitter. Huge spike here on your Spotify monthly listeners. Same thing with Spotify followers and YouTube subscribers as well, which I'm assuming is because there was also a YouTube video released alongside those singles. So what this is really allowing me to do is say, all right, there's new singles coming out. How can I track that those singles are actually having an impact, not only from a streaming perspective, which I can do by comparing it to other content that I released before, as well as singles that have featuring artists, because you want to see how your content's doing across the board. But how is that driving social growth? Because one thing is, although your streams might not be as super high from the get-go or where you were looking for them to be, or maybe they're even higher than you expected, you also want to make sure you're growing your fan base, which is what we're trying to show here with that, what we're referring to as public data. But lastly, I would want to know how this is also impacting YouTube, because that's another spot where a lot of fans are going. So if I look at the YouTube channel, you can see huge spike on the 15th, which also coincided with the Chico Estrella official video launch, which is great to see, because what will typically happen here is, and you can see it, the overall views for this channel, you get a big spike the day of the video launch, and it goes down after that. But what you'll see is that starts to sustain, so you have an overall growth. So while it was a spike and then a little bit of a drop, your overall growth is still high. And you'll see things like watch time will jump up from that video. Average view duration typically goes down because a lot of people will watch the video or go to the video, maybe not watch the full thing, but I get a lot of hits right away. So you should see a little bit of that. Yep. But then you do see it start to go back up, which is, it normalizes itself as more fans start to watch it. You get an idea of all the comments, which always will have a huge spike. But so all of that's really important to be able to see from a channel perspective. But let's actually drill into that video as well. What you can see is where are the top territories, very similar to the single, which is good to see. And you can see where the traffic sources are coming from. Were they coming from searching? Were they coming from playlists? You can see a small amount from playlists, but a lot of it is just for native browse features and suggested videos. So what's good here is you're seeing that this video is getting suggested to a lot of users. And one other cool thing, I mentioned earlier, big piece to why we built this application was seamless interactivity with both Orchard employees, with other employees on your artist team. One of the things I was hitting on earlier was just being able to have that seamless interactivity with Orchard employees as well as other collaborators on your team. So all of these links are shareable. You can share this to someone and they can open it up in Orchard Go or in Insights. You can also give your users access to Orchard Go, or sorry, to both Orchard Go and Insights. So if you wanted someone who was a featured artist and not distributed through the Orchard to have access just to that particular track, you could do so. Or if you just wanted to send them information about it, you can always print, export as a PDF, anything on screen here. So really that's that seamless interactivity and sharing that we were speaking to. And that covers a lot of what I wanted to run through today. Really, it's about being able to take all of this data, but not just have it thrown at you and have to make decisions on your own. It's being able to walk through it. So as you saw, you can take singles, see how they're comparing to previously launched singles, make sure that they're driving fan engagement. You always want to see those socials growing as these singles are coming out rather than declining. You want to increase the fan base. And then also see on other platforms what's happening. You want to make sure that your YouTube channel is growing. You want to make sure that that video is driving growth. And so all that you can see here in a real life use case. And this is just one of the many examples where we're seeing a lot of value that users are getting from the application. So I really appreciate everyone taking the time to sit through this. And if you have any questions, I think similar to last year, there'll be an open forum for chat and happy to answer those. Thanks, everyone.